So guys, that's enough from my side. We're here to learn from all of you. So the first question that I really want to ask is just, how would you guys rate the business conditions out there at the moment? Like if we were to say that, the 10 is absolutely serene, perfect conditions to build a company in, and 1 is absolutely horrific, it's a disaster and nothing will ever work. How would you guys rate it right now? Lisanne?
I would say a 3. And I think mainly because most of the clients that I'm working with are finding the situation quite difficult at the moment. I think it's not ideal in any aspect. So I would say 3.
Got a 3. Weiss, what do you have for us?
I'm probably lean towards a 4. It's probably close to where Lisanne is saying, but there's always an opportunity. I mean, if we said 1, there'd be no hope. I think there's still hope. So I'm saying there's a 4.
Calvin?
Yeah, I was going to go with a 4 as well. I've got a couple of clients that are able to operate decently during these times, so that brings me up from a 3 to a 4.
You do a 4, Johan?
I might be leaning more towards a 2 or a 3, and it's just because the Reserve Bank said that the economy is contracting with 6%, and the 2008 crisis was actually at a 1.5% for comparison. So I'm maybe slightly more pessimistic.
Always on the 4 side, the little ray of sunshine, you mentioned the word hope. Why did you say that?
Well, I suppose small businesses have the opportunity. They are nimble and they've got an opportunity to make money off your larger businesses that potentially have higher cost levels. And also a lot of the smaller companies that have come out of the previous financial crisis, like Airbnb, a couple of those companies will come from the previous crisis. So I'm expecting to see a couple coming out of this crisis as well.
Spot on. Johan, do you want to elaborate on your 2? Your potential 2? That's scary. Very scary.
Yeah, no, I think it all depends on how the rest of the lockdown is looking. Currently, I see a lot of clients, especially obviously in some of the more vulnerable industries, and we'll get to that, being hit the hardest. But the consensus at this stage, looking at the economy, like I said, the Reserve Bank is saying that the South African economy will shrink by about 6% this year. Other research centers say we can go up until 16%. And like I said, the 2008 recession crisis was only at 1.5% for South Africa. So I think for comparative reasons, we quite haven't seen something to this scale in magnitude as at yet.
No, for sure. For sure. I think 6% is probably on the conservative side, yeah. Johan mentioned industries now. Guys, what industries were hit the hardest as far as you've seen? Lisanne?
I've definitely seen in the media industry or events planning, tourism, hospitality, and construction. I think those are the ones that I've seen being really impacted quite hardly.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's definitely a couple of specific industries. Lisanne said hit it on the head there in terms of it's really hard to operate in those business environments and those sectors. But there are also a couple of outliers here and there. You'll see a green shoot coming out. Who has an example of an industry that may have kind of stood up in this time quite well?
Yeah, I think I can definitely jump in on that one. A client of mine operates in the digital consulting and software development industry. I think they're in the perfect space at the moment to assist current businesses to pivot. So they've really taken on quite a bit of business at the moment. Online education being really in high demand at the moment. So I've seen a lot of excitement in that industry. I think e-commerce is obviously taking off as well. Those are the 3 that I've really been excited about.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of industries that are quite well positioned to still take advantage of this. But I think across the board, 9 out of 10, if not 19 out of 20 companies have probably seen some kind of revenue drop in the last while. Wait, so you're able to speak to that? Like, what kind of revenue drops have you guys seen among founder-led companies?
What I've noticed is it's very industry specific. So maybe your tech companies on average have been they've lost anywhere say between 10 and 30%, And it sounds like a lot, but compared to some of the other industries where it's gone, we're talking massive reductions, like 50% to 80% drops in revenue, or tourism companies that have lost all their revenue. So depending on the industry, it has made a big difference to the impact on each business.
Yeah, so I think for our listeners today, like, regardless of where you find yourself on that spectrum, there will always be someone who's better off than you, and there will also always be someone that's worse off than you at the moment. So just kind of figuring out what your positioning is and how best you can take some steps to navigate that if you need to cut down, to figure out new strategies. And we'll jump into some of that just now. I just first maybe want to hear, how are entrepreneurs doing at the moment? Like, how are the guys holding up? Johan, what's been your sense in the market?
Yeah, sure. I think for the most part, they're overwhelmed, right? There's a lot of information out there and communication out there, and sometimes a lot of it conflicting with each other as well, and trying to make sense of it, and then at the same time desperately trying to stop the bleed of funds, costs, revenue going out of the door at the same time. And then you get this relief funding and options and tax reliefs and all these coming on the side, and lots of different options from all sides, and you're not always sure what's the best way to spend the energy on and what should be utilized, what is a lost cause, and then you want to start and then everything is fully subscribed to. So I think just to kind of navigate these waters and in a sense almost being unable really to see where the waves are coming from, I think the entrepreneurs are finding it challenging.
Hey, Lau here, one of the founders of Outsourced CFO. If you enjoyed this video, make it official. Click subscribe.